Hey everyone, and welcome to another video. So today is December 24th for me, and it's in the AM, and I just finished reading Throne of Glass. And I filmed my review and did my review and all that stuff. You guys are probably watching my review in spring because I have a lot of books to review. But today's video, I'm going to be ranking all of the books that I read in 2024. So, little bit of short backstory here. I went through a period of my life where I didn't read. I read only my books, and I couldn't find any books that I really read and enjoyed that fit me. Anytime I would read something, I would want to change something or another. And the ACOTAR series that I read by Sarah J. Maas, A Court of Thorns and Roses, really got me back into reading again. There were a few other books that helped during that time too. The Midnight Prince, I think, was one of them, and several others that I can't think off the top of my head. So at the beginning of this year, I started off by reading Princess of Undersea by an author friend of mine named Leslie Consati, and then I read Anathalion by my author and friend and editor H.A. Pruitt, and those kind of helped me get back into reading. And then I read The Winter Prince by Constance Lopez, and that kept the ball rolling. So I read Sanctuary of the Shadow by Aurora Asher, and then I got into like the psychological thriller genre, and I was reading that as I was writing my first one. So I read Split by Swati Avashti, Darkroom Etiquette by Robin Rowe, Boy Toy by Barry Liga, Set This House in Order by Matt Ruff, and then I took a break throughout the summer, and then my cousin read Fourth Wing and really enjoyed it, and so we went to Branson and did this trip, and we were listening to the audiobook, and it hooked me. It literally gripped me in claws and hooked me. So then I read Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros and Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros, and then I did the challenge here on this channel, finishing the books and finishing sequels that I hated that are part of books series that I really loved. I butchered that, but it'll be here as a card, so go check it out. I read Iron Flame in that one, and I read A Court of Silver Flames in that one as well. So A Court of Silver Flames was the next one I read by Sarah J. Maas, which is her latest in the Court of Thorns and Roses series. And then I started writing military romantic suspense, so I wanted to read military romantic suspense, so I started reading one, Cyclone by Janie Crouch. And so I read that one, and that kind of pulled me right out of it, and I got really sad. And that is the time, right after I finished that sequel, Can I Finish the Sequels That I Hate to Books That I Love challenge. When I did that, my cousin and I started we originally were going to do it for the month of October, the October TBR reading challenge. I'll put it here as a card, where we pick books off our TBR list, and the challenge is you have to read books only from that list. And so that's when I read Cyclone by Janie Crouch. And then we started our own YouTube channel called Pens and Paperbacks. I'll have it here for you guys to subscribe. And did our November TBR list. And so in November, because of that, I was actually reading a lot and got really into like hardcore, just reading like an actual reader, and it felt really good. So in November, I read The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent, and then I read Jessica Ashley's Coastal Hope series, which is Pages of Promise, Searching for Peace, Second Chance Serenity, Tactical Revival, and Perilous Healing. Those are all military romantic suspense. And because Cyclone was so disappointing and it was spicy, my cousin helped me find Jessica Ashley, who is Christian military romantic suspense. So the Coastal Hope series, those 5 books really helped me, and it helped me write the 2 of my Christian military romantic suspense books that I wrote this year. And then that was November. So December, I read Bloodguard by C.C. Robson, and then I read Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. So that's a quick run through of all the books that I read this year. So we're going to be rating them. I'll have the covers popping up here on the screen. So I went on Goodreads and tracked down all of my reviews. First of all, reviewing books is so important to indie authors, especially. Big time authors like Rebecca Yarros and Sarah J. Maas don't really need the extra support because they have so much, but it's so important to review books that you read, especially for indie authors, because even like, it doesn't matter like whether you enjoyed or didn't enjoy the book, like the number of reviews really helps. And yeah, if you have a lot of books that if you have a lot of ratings that say, oh, I didn't like it, you know, people are going to see that and not want to read your book. So it does matter, but it's just important to have the ratings up there. Amazon doesn't really show books that don't have any ratings, so we don't even get a chance to be read. And most of us just want a chance, you know, to be read, and give us a chance, give us a try, that sort of thing. And so anytime I do review a book, anytime I do read and finish a book, I review it. I don't review books that I did not finish, because for me, I feel like I don't have the full perspective of the book. But that may subject to change as I do the, you know, the study podcast with my cousin. So that's neither here nor there, though. Basically, I reviewed all of these books, and now with my YouTube channel this year, I've started to film my reviews, post them on my channel, and I film them as soon as I finish reading them, and I write my reviews and post them. So many times I've posted them, and then my video review will come out later because I give a lot more details in my video reviews. So even with my thoughts on all of these as I rate them, I'm going to be quick about this, but you want to go watch all of my reviews for these because that will have a lot more details. Some of these are already out. Once we hit, I think Cyclone was the last one I did on this channel, so I'll have it here because I did manage to get it done in the October TBR video. All of my November ones and my December reads have not been posted yet. I'm going to start posting them January, and I'm going to try to get through them as quick as possible so that my reviews will be current again. So if you're waiting on those, just be looking out for those. They will be here as soon as possible, I promise. So because of that, I went through Goodreads, found all my ratings for them. So I arranged them according to star rating because that does indicate how much I enjoyed them. And then within those, because I had some of them that were rated the same, I organized them according to how much I enjoyed them. And so a lot of this is personal for me. And I do want to preface this saying, first of all, I'm excited because I read 20 books this year, and it was like 4 or 5 before this. So this is the most I've ever read in a year for a long, since I was like high school. And I'm really proud of myself because I didn't think I could do it. And I'm excited to like be a reader again and get into that and be able to read books that I also didn't enjoy. So I read 20 books this year. So this will be a rating out of 20. And honestly, from 16 and up, I'll start with 1, which is the best, and we'll go down to the worst. And from I would say 17 is average, 16 is average. So I would say 15 as well, but I would say from 17 and up, I did enjoy those books. It's literally 18, 19, and 20 that I did not like. So if you're lower on the list, don't feel bad, because it's just, there were so many good books this year. Like, honestly, I didn't expect to have so many new favorites. And I was reading my reviews, and it's like, oh, Fourth Wing, my new favorite fantasy book. And then there was another one, my new favorite fantasy book. And then I did it again. So there was just so many good books that I read this year that it was just so hard to deter, the good books that I really did enjoy just got pushed down the list, but it's not an affront to your book or anything like that. So I wanted to preface this by that. And also my other thing is I'm naturally going to enjoy fantasy books over modern day books just because I prefer and do enjoy fantasy more. So even though some of these are rated the same, if it's like the same rating, but if there's a fantasy book, it's probably going to do better than an equivalent star rating of a book that's just in the modern world, just because that's how it works. So let's get into this. I've babbled enough. So my number 1 read this year was Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. I read it in July of this year, 2024, and I rated it 5 stars, and I said I haven't been this addicted to a book since I was in high school. Like, wow. I loved it so much about this book, and then it's my new favorite fantasy book. That was the end comment that I had. So I really did enjoy it. The race building, the world building, the dragons, everything about it was so unique and creative. It really hooked me. I'll never forget being on that trip in Branson and listening to the audiobook in her car, and we had to keep getting out and going to shops and coming, and we would all race to get back in the car to find out what happens next. It is honestly the book with the strongest hook I have ever read, and that is true amongst all of these. Like, I've never had a book hook me so fast as Fourth Wing. So my second favorite book of the year, which honestly I could say tied with Fourth Wing almost, is The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. I read it in November. I rated it 5 stars, and I said it's my new favorite fantasy, even better than A Court of Thorns and Roses, even better than the Court of Thorns and Roses series, and it's also tied with Fourth Wing. It was very unique, very creative. It's like, I don't know. It kind of reminded me of The Hunger Games a little bit, but more mature, adultish. It was dark and gritty, with vampires, and it was like a gritty gothic kind of vibe to it. There was a romance. It was really good. The action scenes and the monsters were so creative, and it's kind of like on its own. And my cousin and I have talked about it before, again, in our podcast. I'll have it here. How unique it is, and it's hard to compare because it's just so unique, and it's a series of duologies, which is a unique thing in and of itself. And so it's like this one and this Ashes and the Star-Cursed King are a series of duologies, and then there's the next one, which I haven't gotten yet. So the Heartbird, and I actually have the Heartbird and the Heart of Stone is the next book 3, but it's going to be a duology with the 4th book, if that makes any sense. So it's really unique. Number 3, which again, for me, these 3 could be interchangeable. It's just Fourth Wing had this special thing because we were, on vacation, and it hooked me, and I haven't had a book hook me so much that Fourth Wing kind of stands apart, but they're all equal for me. The next one is Bloodguard by C.C. Robinson. I read it in December, so I read it this month. I rated it 5 stars. It's the best action-packed, gritty fantasy that I've read. It's my absolutely new favorite action-packed fantasy. I could not get enough of this book, and I said, finally we have a book centered around a strong male character with his POV for the majority of the story. I love Leif's character. I'm honestly kind of tired of female main characters and strong female leads, and I'm like, most of the time the male leads, if they are good at the best, they are a really strong male love interest, and at worst they're just eye candy and arm candy for the female, and for her to shine and have something to step on top of, so to speak. And so for me, having a strong male character as the lead is amazing. But as I was going through the reviews for this, apparently it's rated pretty low on Goodreads, and not a lot of people enjoyed this book. So I don't know if that says something more about me, and because it also reminded me of Immortal and the Rome arc. If you've read my book Immortal, I'll pop the cover up here. The Roman arc in Immortal is basically the story of Bloodguard, but it's like more intense, creative world building, race building. I mean, it's literally, was like just really, really creative world building that I haven't seen in a long time. And again, I don't understand why people don't like this book, but I did. So that was 5 stars. So that's number 3. Number 4 for me is Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros, and I still rate it. I read it in September, and as you notice, I read Fourth Wing in July. Iron Flame is already out, and it took me from July. I didn't finish Iron Flame till September. It took me a while to finish this book. I still rated it 5 stars just because the ending picked back up, but it was a part of my books that I hated, a part of series that I love. And I said, I have a hate-love relationship with this book. I didn't like it, and it didn't hook me as much as Fourth Wing, but it picked up eventually, and that's at the end of the challenge. And it the slow parts kind of lasted longer in this one, whereas in Fourth Wing it's like slow, but it picked right before it would get slow in Fourth Wing, it would pick back up again. Whereas in this one, it went really slow, and then it would pick back up. But the ending was so amazing, and I need Onyx Storm. If you ask anybody who's read Iron Flame, the ending will leave you reeling and just needing the 3rd book, Onyx Storm, which is coming out at the end of January. So we're getting closer. I still rated it 5 stars just because the ending was amazing. That was number 4. Number 5, indie author, so The Winter Prince by Constance Lopez. I read it in March of this year, and I rated it 5 stars. I said the best Beauty and the Beast retelling I have ever read up to this point, and I thought it was better than A Court of Thorns and Roses, the individual book, because A Court of Thorns and Roses, the first book, is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. The rest of the series is not, but it's better than the actual book, A Court of Thorns and Roses. It's clean, has a male perspective. It's well-built world building, race building, magic systems. The main couple had a genuine connection in the romance. And again, the main male POV at the time, that for me, I hadn't read Bloodguard yet, and so I was so shocked to find that the majority of the book was from the male POV, which again is so rare, but that really just, I love that. So that was number 5. So we're still 5-star reads for me. Again, there were so many 5-star reads and good books this year, so it's just... It's just pushed everything else down. So A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas. I read it in September. Again, part of the books that I hate, part of series that I love, video. I read it in September. It's a 5-star read for me. I absolutely loathed Nesta's character. And I started it way back in May of 2023. I didn't finish it until September of 2024. So that's over a year that it took me to finish it. But to me, it was like when I got it, I got it. And her character arc is the biggest character arc I have ever seen in my life, like in any book ever. And when I got it, I got it. And if you've read it, you kind of know, it was really this powerful story of this woman who's like hateful and ruining her life, and she's spiraling into depression, giving into alcoholism. And it had a lot of parallels with that. And I appreciate the themes and how she touches on some of those realistic subjects in a fantasy world. And her and Cassian's romance really shines above all the other couples this year, in all these other books, because of her arc is such a powerful arc. It really adds so many layers to their romance that these other books and couples just simply don't have. So that's number 6. So we're still in the 5-star reads. So, and we're almost, I think we're almost at number 10, the top 10. All right, number 7 is Perilous Healing by Jessica Ashley, and we're getting into the modern day stories. So as I said, the fantasies are always going to be better, just because I'm a sucker for fantasy, and it's like sci-fi I would like less than modern day, so it's just a genre preference. But Perilous Healing by Jessica Ashley, I think she's another indie author, so shout out to you too. I read this book in November of 2024, and it was a 5-star read for me. I just said, wow, 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 best of the whole series. I so love this book. I think it was the final book in her series. I have these all out of order, so I binge read them in November, so I get them all mixed up. But it was like the final book, and it was like a really touching, the main character, I think he was a Navy SEAL, and he had been captured and tortured, and it dealt with all of that, and his healing, and his coming to God, and the other main character that he was with, her coming to God, and like past and secrets. Like, it was genuinely a really good book, and it did have a really good, like, some of the books had like a disappointing ending. We'll get to those in a minute, but the ending for this one did hold up. So it was just like a really, really good book. And this Jessica Ashley is my favorite military romantic suspense author. Keep in mind, I've only read her and Janie Crouch, but I just love it from the Christian perspective. There are a few things I disagree with and don't like, but I really do love Jessica Ashley as an author, and she's a well-written author too. So Perilous Healing by Jessica Ashley, that was number 7. So number 8 is Darkroom Etiquette by Robin Rowe. I read this back in March. This was one of the psychological thrillers. It was a 5-star read. It's a tragic, heartbreaking, but head-spinning, realistic book about survival and trauma, but it sucked me in, and I read this in a 24-hour period. Even though it's the longest, like, modern day book I've ever read, and the longest thriller I've ever read. And I appreciated that it didn't just stop when the mystery and everything was, like, ended, like most everything else, every other book or movie does. It, like, kept going. But yeah, it sucked me in, and I read it in 24 hours. So next up, number 9 is Split by Swati Avashti. I can't pronounce her name. I read that in March as well. 5-star read again. I said it's a tragically beautiful story about the realistic effects of abuse. It had realistic characters that made me feel for them, even though the main character is actually a teenager, and I'm notorious for I can't read teenagers. I don't do it. It doesn't appeal to me. If they're like 18 and younger, I can't do it. I don't know why. It's a me problem. It is absolutely a me problem. But the main character, for being a teen, like, he was so relatable and just easy to like, and like I felt for him. So I was able to like get into his character. And again, I loved the tragically beautiful story about the realistic effects of abuse. All right, so number 10 is Second Chance Serenity by Jessica Ashley, also part of her Coastal Hope series. I read that in November as well. This was 4.75 stars for me, even better than the last two. So this was book 3, and this was better than the first 2 books. So I said, wow, Jessica Ashley is officially my favorite military romantic suspense author. And I think she'll remain that, just because of how much it meant to me coming from the Cyclone, and how much that was kind of an epic fail. How high hopes I had for Cyclone and that whole, like, I don't know, 14 book series, and I binge bought it without even reading the whole book. I was so disappointed. And to finally find something Christian that also had that like military suspense aspect that was actually balanced the romance and the suspense, unlike Cyclone, meant so much to me that it'll always have a special place in my heart. So number 11 is Searching for Peace by Jessica Ashley. I read it in November with the rest of the series, and it's 4.5 stars. I said it's better than book 1. This was book 2. Better than book 1. I really enjoyed the story and enjoyed it more than the first book, which surprised me. So it was a really good one. Number 12 is Tactical Revival by Jessica Ashley. November 2024, I read that one. It's 4.5 stars. I said best of the series so far. This is book 4, so I hadn't read book 5 yet. So out of all of the previous 4, this was Tactical Revival. Book 4 was the best of the books, but it had a disappointing ending, and that's why it was 4.5 stars instead of 4.75. Like, Second Chance Serenity. So 13 is Pages of Promise by Jessica Ashley. This was book 1. I read this in November. It's 4 stars, and at the time it was book 1, and I just said, finally a clean and Christian military romantic suspense. I was just like, I'd been searching and searching and searching and couldn't find one, so I was like, finally a good one. All right, number 14, Special Place in My Heart, Anathalion by H.A. Pruitt, my really good author friend and also editor. So I read this back in March of this year, and I said it's a 4-star read for me. It's nostalgic, made me feel like a kid again, and it made me, I really did enjoy the world building, and it had really, really good lessons and a lot of different quotes that really touched my heart or spoke to me in some way. And again, it had that, like, her tagline for the series is, if you ever needed an escape, Anathalion is waiting, or something to that effect. I'm sorry if I'm butchering that, but it really is this escapism that just reminds you of what it feels like to play as a kid. And it's a YA, I would say, so it's not like a kid book, but I'm just saying it gives you that feeling, and it just has this nostalgic, warm, cozy feeling to it. So that was number 14. So number 15 is Sanctuary of the Shadow by Aurora Asher. I read it in March of 2024, and it was a 4-star read for me. I said it's a wonderful, amazing book ruined by sex and an unsatisfactory ending. And then I added in hindsight, looking back on it, it had the perfect setup to be a perfect book that I've been wanting my life to, like, waiting for my whole life to read, but it failed, whereas Bloodguard succeeded. So Bloodguard ended up being what Sanctuary of the Shadow should have been, even though they're different genres. Like, they're still fantasy, but just different genres. So number 16, Princess of Undersea by Leslie Kinsati, another author friend of mine. I read this back in January. This was the first book I read this year. This was a 3-star read for me, but I still said it was fun, an adventurous YA read that was a bit too young for me, but I still enjoyed it, and I still highly recommend it because it's really good. And I did really appreciate how Leslie changed the fairy tale retelling and made it her own. A lot of times, sometimes people will just kind of copy it, but you can tell that she really just took it and made it her own. So yeah, that was Princess of Undersea by Leslie Kinsati, number 16 for me. Number 17 is Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. So yes, I liked Anathalion and Princess of Undersea, and what were the other? Jessica Ashley series and The Winter Prince, which are all indie author books, more than I enjoyed Throne of Glass, which is amazing. So Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. I just finished it. It's still December. 3-star rating for me. I said it's a slow, average start to what I hope will be an epic fantasy series. So 18, which is surprising to me how low this ended up being, but it's Boy Toy by Barry Lyga, and it was March 2024. It was a 3-star read for me, and it had the potential to be another one like Split or Darkroom Etiquette, because I read it at the same time, but it was 3 stars. I said it's a good, realistic story about abuse and trauma, but it over-focused on baseball, and there was like one whole chapter where literally nothing happened. It was just about baseball, and a lot of it went over my head. So it wasn't even explained in a way that could be easily understood. And I get if the character is passionate about it, the character was passionate about it. So I get that it needs to be in there, but this was just way too much. And then the main female love interest was actually really toxic, in my opinion. And that behavior, her toxic behavior, was never addressed. And it was kind of portrayed as like okay behavior. And so I just didn't like that. And so that's why it was a 3-star read for me, even though it should have been higher. So these are also the books that I don't like. So Throne of Glass was like the average read. Princess of Undersea was another average read, but just better than Throne of Glass. Again, it wasn't the right genre for me, but I appreciated it for what it was and stuff. And Sanctuary of the Shadow was disappointing for me. So we kind of have a little muddled in the 15, 16, and 17 range, but 18 Boy Toy starts the books that I really didn't like because there were a lot of aspects in Boy Toy that I did not like. Cyclone by Janie Crouch. So these last, I didn't like Boy Toy, and I don't like these next two. So Cyclone by Janie Crouch, I read it in October of 2024, and it's a 2-star read for me. It was marketed as a romantic suspense, but the So it's a 2-star read for me, and it's marketed as romantic suspense, but the problem is that the focus is actually on the romance, not on the suspense, and the romance is actually the weak part. The suspense was the good part, but it was not the focus. The romance is weak. All they wanted to do was literally get spicy with each other, and the main character, the main guy, has no personality other than wanting her. Like, he starts off riding his motorcycle in the beginning, and he has this security company, but that's it, and outside of that, the rest of the book, he just wants her and wants her and wants her and wants her. He doesn't have he doesn't have a personality outside of just wanting her every second. The romantic plot also didn't work because some of their problems, which is in the blurb, was resolved halfway, and then the blurb presented this problem like, oh, the greatest enemy to her is him, but their greatest enemy was actually this bad guy that almost assaulted her, and it's like the blurb was just completely incorrect, and it wasn't descriptive. She lacked a lot of description in her writing, so it was a 2-star read for me. I did not like it, and that's why Jessica Ashley, when I found her series after reading Cyclone was so disappointing. I bought all 14 books in Cyclone series. I should not have done that, and so I was disappointed, and I had to return them, and I normally don't do that because it hurts the authors, especially since I think Janie Crouch, I don't know if she's an indie author, maybe she's not, but it's still, I didn't like doing it, but it's like, it was a lot of money, and it was a waste, because the second book was not any better, and I quit. So that's why Jessica Ashley's Coastal Hope series was such a blessing for me, because I was so disappointed by Cyclone. So that was number 19. So the last book on this list, my least favorite book in 2024 is Set This House in Order by Matt Ruff, and I read this in May of 2024. I had just read all the psychological thrillers, and I was still kind of looking for one. I gave this a 2-star rating, and I said it's a good idea, but a very bad execution. It had a lot of pacing issues, and there were a lot of chapters that would just go on and on and on and on, and I'm not kidding, like on and on and on about random stuff that was unimportant, not relevant to the plot, and there was a twist. I don't know if it was in the middle or toward the end, but there was a twist somewhere in the middle end-ish of the book that completely ruined Andrew Gage's character for me, and it was one of those twists that seemed like it was trying to exceed or change, like what's the term, like exceed expectations or something like that, but it ruined the character for me, and I hate it. I absolutely hated it. So this was a 2-star read for me, and I did not like this book. So, not going to like every book that you read. And most of the time I don't finish books that I hate. So I'm really proud of myself for finishing these last 3 books that I really didn't like. I'm glad that I pushed through Throne of Glass. I'm glad that I did support 1, 2, 3, 4 potential. I don't know about Jessica Ashley, but I think she's an indie author. So again, I'm glad that I supported indie authors this year, and I found so many really good 5-star reads for me this year that were just absolutely fantastic.
Hey guys, Editing Joanna here. So it's been about a week since I filmed this, and I'm editing this and getting it ready to come out in January. And since I filmed this, which was on December 24th or 25th, Christmas basically, I actually have read 2 books. So the first one is 6 Scorched Roses by Carissa Broadbent, and it is a short novella between her first and second book. So it's after Serpent in the Wings of Night, but before Ashes in the Star-Cursed King. It's a different couple, and it's a different place, but I think these are going to be side characters in book 2. So I'm reading this one, and I'm taking it slow. It's very short, but I needed a book to last me until the 31st so I could start fresh on the 1st of January 2025, but still keep up my reading streak of reading every day. So I'm reading 4 chapters a day. I'm taking it slow. I will finish it in 2 days. It is the 30th. Well, it's technically the 29th for me. So I'll finish it on Tuesday. It's Sunday night. So Monday, Tuesday, I have 2 days left and I still have to read for today. So I will finish it then, but I'm still going to go ahead and say where I would rate it. So it's probably going to be a 4-star read for me. So somewhere in the 4 range. So it would probably go before Jessica Ashley's book. I don't like it as much as The Serpent and the Serpent and the Wings of Night. And I'm not as invested in the couple, even though they're okay. I'm actually finding myself surprisingly more interested in the main girl and her plotline. I'll have my full review coming out probably into January, early February. And I haven't finished it yet, but I wanted to let you guys know that that's probably where it's going to go, because I will finish it on the 31st, but I need to get the video out and scheduled. And the second book that I did, I'm doing the PewDiePie, his reading book challenge, which he's reading a lot of philosophy books. So I'm doing audiobooks, and I wanted more books to listen to. I'm not a philosophy reader. It's not my genre. A lot of these are probably going to be rated really low. But I wanted to do the challenge and challenge myself to read stuff that I normally wouldn't. And so I listened to it yesterday while I worked. It was Tao Te Ching by Lao, I don't know, some weird name, by Lao Su. So I listened to the audiobook on Spotify, and it was an hour and 40 minutes long. So it was really short. And literally I listened to it while I worked yesterday, and I still had more work to do. So basically it's like a philosophy book about Taoism or Taoism, however you pronounce it. And it's like translated from Chinese, and it was written like 2000 years ago in China, like something. So some of the principles kind of lined up with Christianity. Some of the principles are really weird. And it was honestly like really boring, but it was kind of background noise while I was working. So it's a 2-star read, but I still liked it better than the last book that I mentioned had so many issues that made me hate it and dragged on and on and on. Whereas this one was just hour and 40 minutes, background noise. I didn't have to pay that much attention to it, even though I did. And my full review, I actually go over some of the philosophy points and stuff, which will be coming at the end of February. So be looking for that. So it would probably go right above Set This House in Order, and be number 20 on my list. And then Set This House in Order would be number 21. I guess 22 if this gets inserted in there. So I read 22 books this year by the time I finished this one. So hopefully I can get it done and everything. So that's everything. I just wanted to insert that back to the video.
So that's basically my books that I read in 2024, all rated and ranked in order of how I enjoyed them. What did you guys think? Let me know in the comments below whether you would agree or disagree with my choices. And if you've read any of these books, let me know how you would enjoyed them or what you think of them. And in the meantime, let me know what you guys read this year and what your favorite and least favorite books this year was in 2024, because you guys are probably watching this in 2025. But let me know in the comments below. And if you liked this video, please be sure to give it a like and subscribe for more writing and reading videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And in the meantime, if you enjoy me ranking books that I read in 2024, then check out my 2024 wrap up for the year, where I go over not just what I wrote and edited, but also the books that I wrote this year in a little bit more greater detail and all the other things that I achieved this year. Check that out. You don't want to miss it. I also go over my goals for 2025, including what my reading goals are for 2025. So you don't want to miss it. Check it out. It'll be here for you guys.